Today we'll be discussing about the next part of your second unit, that is Java constructors. In the previous classes you have been seeing how actually the definition or declaration of a class is going to be done, and how you are going to define the fields, and how your constructors are used, and how you are going to use the methods declarations. Then afterwards you have been went with access modifiers like public and private, and what is the difference between public and private you have seen. Then moving to the next one, you have seen how actually the objects can be called using declared, and how they will be called for the fields of the same class, and the method functions of the class. So today the another important concept of your Java or a second unit, that is constructors. As a constructor in a Java is a special method that is used to initialize objects at the runtime. Whenever the objects will be created, all the objects will be created at the time of runtime itself. The constructor is called when an object of a class is created. Just you can say the word he is going to use when the object is created. At that time the constructor function will be called, or a class constructor will be called. It can be used to set initial values for object attributes. Why he is going to say like this way? Initial values means default values, or setting integer value of 0 or float value as 0.0. Like that we are going to set the information back to the constructors. Now he is going to define another way. A constructor initializes an object when it is created. It has the same name as its class and is synthetically similar to a method. However, constructors have no explicit return type. Explicit means outside. Implicit means inside. You keep in the mind, because these two words will be coming rigorously or regularly within the coming days, coming concepts. And he is going to say that constructor is used to initialize the objects at the time of when they are created, and the objects will be created at the time of runtime. It has the same name as its class. From 4 to 5 days I am saying you that constructors are those special methods which are defined to access the name of the class which is same. Example is given here, just I will explain with the point. Then typically you will use a constructor to give initial values to the instance variables. Instance variable means object variables defined by the class, or to perform any other startup procedures required to create a fully formed object. All classes have a constructors whenever you define one or two, because Java automatically provides a default constructor that initializes all the members to 0. Whenever you are going to define any constructor, at that time that will be defined with 0 as a value as a default constructor. There is not necessary that you should have to initialize some value to it. Okay. Once you define your own constructor, the default constructor is no longer used. Once when you are defined any field with any value, or accessing any value from the main method function or from the object creation, at that time there is no necessity of defining, or the default constructors are not at all used. You can see a syntax here. Here you have been defined as a class, syntactical class, and a class name, and the same class name is used as a method, so we can say it is a constructor. So you can say another example here. You are using public class my class name is my class. Int x is a class variable, or a class attribute, or a class data member. Okay, just you are declared as an integer value. Then afterwards you are using public my class. Public my class stands for what? My class is a method name or a constructor which is going to use the same name of its own class. My class is a class name, and my class here it is acting like a constructor, and constructor is defined with a value called as 5. Then afterwards, in a public static void main, you just refer my class, my object is equal to new my class. So my class is having any parameters or arguments here? No, means it is going to call a constructor called as my class. When it is going to call a my class, within that one you have defined the value 5 to the x. So my object you are going to you are going to have with what value? Now you will be having with a value called as what? 5. System dot out dot println my object refer the value of x. This is called as object reference. The object reference which is going to access the value of your class. So this is how actually the constructors will be used. Once again, my class is a class name which is the same method name you are defined, that is my class method, and is called as a constructor. Okay, and the output you are going to display with what here? 5, because you are defined within a my class constructor method as 5 x is equals to 5, so it is going to display back to you. This is how the constructors will be working. Now we can go for the different types of constructors. There are two different types of constructors you are going to have. One is called as no argument constructor, or a default constructor we can say. Another one is called as parameterized constructor, which is going to be flown or given with an simple values to it. So no argument constructor or a default constructor, has a name specifies the no argument constructor of a Java does not accept any parameters instead. Using these constructors, the instant variable, means a class variables or class fields of a method will be initialized with fixed values for all the objects. Whatever how many objects you are going to create, for those all the objects you are going to define with the same value itself. So you can have a simple example here. What type of example is going to give? Public class my class int num. My class is defined with num is equal to 100. Just has been given example. You are going to have the demonstration here. So you can see public class constructor demo. And class name is constructor demo. Public static void main of the value. So my class t1 is equal to new my class. So t1 is a object which is going to call a constructor which is having the value t, my class value. What is the my class method you are having? Num is equal to 100. So 100 will be stored within t1. So my class t2, another object you are creating for a same class which is going to call the another same constructor of the same class called as my class. So 100 will be stored here. So system dot out dot println t1 dot num. T1 dot num means it comes to this one and is going to access the value of. So you can see here, just I will point out here, t1 you will be calling my class and it is going to call the my class, and my class method will be storing the num is equal to 100 within t1, and my class t2 in the another object for a same class is going to call the same class function, that is my class num is equal to 100 will be stored within t2. So t1 is another object which is going to have the num is equal to 100, and t2 is another object of a same class is going to have with some same value. So t1 dot num means it is going to accept the value of num. What is the num value you are having here? Here it is 100. So t1 will be having with t1 dot num is going to have with 100, and t2 dot num is equal to 100. So this is how we are going to have a no argument constructors we can call, or a default constructors we will be calling. Okay, then you can go for a parameterized constructor. Here most often you will need a constructor that accepts one or more parameters. There in a default constructor, within a constructor you are not going to pass any values, but here within a parameterized constructor you are going to pass one or more parameters in the form of values. Parameters are added to a constructor in the same way that they are added to a method. Just declare them inside the parenthesis after the constructor name. You can check with the example here. In class my class name int x means instant variable of a my class, and my class is a constructor which is going to use with a declaration or a parameters we can call int I. Int I means it is going to accept some values at the time of object creation. You can check here, just I will point. So you are going to have a my class int I. Int I means this is nothing but called as a parameter, and this is constructor. We can call this whole the thing as what we can call parameterized constructor. So when you will be coming to the public class, what you can say, constructor demo, public static void main string args, and here within that one my class is a statement. Here you're going to create a word called as t1 is equal to new my class 10. So when you are passing a value means from the main method it becomes the argument. This 10 value will be stored in I, and I will be storing the value within the instance variable of your my class. That is x is equals to how much now? It is 10. T1 x is equal to 10 you are going to have. Then my class T2 is equal to new my class 20. So 20 is going to be sent over here in I, and it will be stored within EX. So my class T2 is equal to you are going to have with 20. So how it is going to display now? System.out.println T1.x is equals to what the value you are going to have here. First time you have stored with 10, and T2.x is equal to what you are going to have, you will be having with 20. So you are going to have the output as 10 and 20. So I will end the class here itself. Rest other things we will see in the next class. Thank you.